And folks, or the thing is, click the links for the alternate video platforms. I keep talking to people about making their own movies, and we're gonna need to get in shape before we do that. The thing about making movies is different in the past 20 or 30 years. Is now you have a big collection of people who are creative, smart, funny, and they have the opportunity. 30 years ago, they might be making their own movies, like Kevin Smith style, filming in black and white for a few tens of thousands of dollars. Now you have a certain class of people who would have been going down that route of, actor, director for very small bits. And they look at YouTube and they're like, oh, wait, I can make more money on YouTube. Or at least less, maybe not as much money as a movie if a movie hits, but it's lower risk. You can have a long YouTube. Like if you're a 20-year-old girl and you're skinny, you should be on social media, making as much money as possible. Like you can do it for like 20 years, 15 years. Just stay skinny and you can be a multimillionaire on YouTube as long as you can speak somewhat coherently and you're reasonably attractive. It's like it's a stupid career, but there's nothing wrong with being able to buy a dozen homes and go that route. So you have these people who 30 years ago, there was no way to make a living on social media. They would have picked up a camera and they would have started filming their own low-budget movies. They would have made these, movies for a few $100,000 or a few tens of $1,000s. Like all those people now, they look at, even I was thinking with YouTube people, even if they were to put skits together or movies together, it's like the time it takes to make skits for the YouTube people who are making a really decent living on YouTube, it's not worth it for them. It's better. It's like they make just as much money, if not more money, by just covering the news, doing what they're doing. So it's a bummer that you're missing out on that creative endeavor. So the people who would want to make a movie, like, oh yeah, we're going to crowdfund to make a movie. It's like, well, if you crowdfund to make a movie, you're taking away from the people that are, like if Gary Nerdrotic crowdfunded to make a movie, well, they're donating for the movie and they're not donating for him, for his, essentially his salary for being an entertainer. So it's a tricky position for people like that to go into the concept of making movies. It's like all those old YouTubers from 5 or 6 years ago. They started out doing YouTube as skits, which were a lot of fun, but labor intensive, and it turned out to not pay that much, where you could just talk about media, talk about current affairs, and it's like there's very little prep work that goes into that. And all those old channels, I went on that binge of watching old YouTube channels. It's like they put in all this work to make these skit videos. And it's like you could have just read pop culture videos and talked about that, and it's like you would have had the same amount of money. So it kind of sucks that way. Like it's lowering the bar for entertainment, which is a bummer because for small filmmakers, we got to get people making movies. Like Hollywood now is so bad that, if you told me 5 years ago, yeah, people are going to be picking up a $2,000 video camera and try to make their own films, it would not have been acceptable. But now you look at all the streaming platforms, HBO, Amazon, all those type of things. You look at them like, oh, this sucks. All this stuff sucks. Like this is insultingly bad. Sex and the City has a new series out. They're in their 50s and 60s. So it's like a grandmother series, but then they're also pandering to the woke crowd. It's like, who wants to see that? Apparently Zach wants to see it because he reviews it on his second channel, Splato Delgado. Freaking hysterical hearing this guy talk about a Sex and the City remake show. I forget what it's called, something else, and it has three of the four chicks, because one of the chicks, Kim Cattrall, she's 65. What is the show? What does the show bring to the table when the horse face girl is in her 50s and even the youngest chick is in her 50s? Like, I didn't get that show 30 years ago. And I think Midnight's After Dark or something, Midnight's in Exile, was talking about it. He said there's a before and after for women who watch Sex in the Cities. It was just like this mass brainwashing propaganda campaign to make women believe in this kind of mindless, nihilistic approach. It's like, this is propaganda TV. This is meant to hurt you. Anything that's coming from the mainstream media is controlled by these filthy globalist vermin parasites. It's meant to hurt you. Anyway, so maybe we'll get some movies in the future. I would love to see some micro-budget films. Anyway, so creepy Scott Mendleson. And Scott Mendleson is creepy. He goes through this article. He's talking about I don't know. I guess he's trying to duck on Spider-Man a little bit. And then he gets to the second paragraph and he starts defending Star Wars and Rian Johnson. That was the Star Wars series was so bad that even the follow-up movie Solo, which wasn't horrible, it just wasn't a Star Wars movie, that bombed because of the trilogy being Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams being so stupid. So so why people are in this kind of weird position because Spider-Man did well, and even among the newest the Wu-Flu variant type of thing, they use that as an excuse when they want to use it as an excuse. So they're trying to excuse films that don't do well, but then it kind of skips over films that do well. So, like, do you want to sit next to Typhoid Mary or not? It's like they find every excuse in the book, and like nobody's buying it. So I mean, people were scared of The Matrix or not because they skipped The Matrix. That didn't do very well at all, and it's on Odysee if you want to watch it, and it's not worth watching. I mean, people get through like 15 minutes of the Matrix 4 and like, oh God, this is 2.5 hours. I don't have it in me. I don't have 2.5. There's no fuck. I can't do it. There's two. I'd rather watch the Lethal Weapon series. I'd rather watch anything than watch New Matrix, which sucks because they did definitely set a good tone for The Matrix. I mean, visually, like if you want to kind of go back in that universe and you realize like, oh wait, didn't The Matrix conclude in three episodes? Like at the end of it, they meet the architect and the movie's over? Like, yeah, I think they ended the movie after 3 episodes. Didn't Star Wars, like Luke and his father and they kill the Emperor, it's like, wasn't that concluded? Oh yeah, but then this girl comes along and undoes everything, and she's actually Luke Skywalker. It's like, so you just unmade the first six films that were massively successful, and people enjoyed. Like, it built the universe, and you went back and you unmade it. It's like, yeah, we're just gonna unmake it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and they did that with The Matrix too. I guess it's not even worth discussing. It's not even worth watching. It was just. Like, people knew The Matrix going into it was going to be, like, you knew the Wachowski siblings are, Trump derangement syndrome, far left, nut jobs. Oh, anyway, my point is they're skipping over the super woke Matrix version for the somewhat woke Spider-Man. And then sometimes when they try to excuse films, they'll blame franchise fatigue. Except only in some cases and not in others. It's like they know the things they're saying are ridiculous, and it doesn't stop them from saying things that are objectively, you can look at it and you're like, no, it's not franchise fatigue, and it's not this Wu-Flu issue because it's not applying across the board. It's like people are apparently willing to risk it for something that looks a little bit less woke. People are tired of Hollywood garbage, and they are showing it by accepting something that Spider-Man was still woke. So for people who jumped on board Spider-Man, I don't know what they were thinking. Like, you're rewarding stuff. Like, people, they want their bread in circuses almost no matter what. Anyway, so Spider-Man topped domestic charts, 20 million. And yeah, it had a drop. Spider-Man, his second film, earned 100 million less on its second Friday. Okay, well, these are strange times. But again, as they say, they compare it to other films. It's like, yeah, it's still going to make $1 billion. It's a big drop. I have to assume it's mostly about Christmas Eve. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on, and really it doesn't matter. It'll be earning $40 million on Saturday, $40 million on Sunday for $100 million second week in gross. So we're looking at $100 million gross down from the $250 million debut. So, and then it goes, and a heck of a lot closer to the 67% drop of The Last Jedi from the 40% drop of The Force Awakens. Yes, Christmas fell on a Friday in 2015. That was well reviewed and well received. No Way Home is dropping hard this December. It's more proof that general audience liked The Last Jedi just fine, and that Rian Johnson ruined Star Wars fandom was a vocal minority. What are you doing? What are you doing? Did you see The Last Jedi? Did you watch that Star Wars trilogy? I'd say, we should have a watch party on a Saturday and watch all 8 hours of Star Wars, but nobody has that in them. I don't have that in me. Even it's not. I mean, some movies are so bad they're good, and Star Wars is not any of that. It's just, especially like, the last two. You could watch the last two, and you're like, this isn't Star Wars. I'm not quite sure what this is. This is. I don't know what it is, but it was 2015, the last, The Force Awakens. That was the beginning of what I consider like kind of the end of modern Hollywood. It happened about 2015. And now the stuff you're going to get is That's why I keep talking about alternative films, where I'd like to see people try to come back to making skits. The technology is never been cheaper than it is now to get a camera, a boom mic, and a light reflector to film indoors at least. And then to film outdoors, you need dialogue replacement on a computer indoors. It's like you're talking about technology that 30 years ago would have been really pricey to rent stuff. And I mean, now you could do a lot of stuff with the camera you probably already own that can film in 1080, and you would need like a camera that has a boom mic attachment. Like the sound is the most important thing of anything. And then you got light reflectors, and you can play around with lamps and sheets and stuff. It's like you could probably make something. And you go, oh yeah, but it's not going to be $100 million movie. No, but I mean, you could start messing around with things like, can you make funny things with a half a dozen actors, in a set, like turn someone's house into a set. Turn someone's house, garage, and backyards and neighboring, woods and hills into sets. It's like, yeah, you probably could, but could you distribute it and monetize it? I don't know, maybe, but, I look at mainstream movies. Yeah, you're not going to compete with this, but like this wasn't great. And everything else that's coming out is not great either. In fact, it's far from great. It's not, the thing is, it's not going to get better. When all this stuff is great for the alt community, I mean alt in any sense of the word, alternative to big social media, mainstream media, mainstream comics, even mainstream movies, mainstream authors. It's like there's this alt community springing up based around, this concept of free speech, free expression, and just letting people, like, if you don't like something, then just move on from it, but don't try to deplatform somebody or censor somebody. That's the mainstream. And, whatever you put out there, if it sells, it sells. And it seems like these mainstream, there's been so many flops in the past 6 years, or underperformers, where, I look at these low budget movies like Clerks, Special Dead, and Stan Helsing, which were, 3 orders of magnitude from $60,000, $600,000, and $6 million. And you look like, okay, what can you do with that budget? Turns out you can do some pretty funny things as long as you're not politically correct. You can make some really funny stuff. I don't know if this, I guess the one film, Special Dead, was about a developmentally disabled camp for kids who were attacked by zombies. So yeah, that's not really politically correct. Fair enough. And the one black guy in the film was a gangster. So that probably wouldn't fly today, but the thing is, if you're willing to say, okay, we're not going to make politically correct stuff, we're just going to try to focus on funny stuff, then you can make a movie about a special education camp that gets attacked by zombies and is freaking hysterical. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.